And welcome back to AR Tales, aka the ART podcast. I am AR Meetup, and today I am joined by a very, very special guest. I just got in the knowing of her through Instagram, and the moment I found her, I could not believe it took me so long to find her. Cassie Sanchez on the podcast. She is the author of Chasing the Darkness, out now, available on Amazon. You already know the information is going to be on the description and the banners of the recording and everything. Make sure to go ahead and pick it up. It is out now. It is well reviewed. People are loving it. And book 2 is on its way this month, October 25th. Embracing the Darkness, book 2 in the Darkness saga. And without any further ado, Cassie, how are you doing today?
AR, hi, thanks. I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me and finding me on Instagram. I was very excited when I got your message.
Yes, I was blown away. The moment I stumbled across your account. And it's always interesting too, because you find these major talents, and it's taken you, I've been doing this for about a year and change. And the fact that I'm still running into new people, it blows my mind. My mind every single time.
I'm glad my marketing must be working somehow, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I would love to talk about that actually, but for now, I usually always start the conversation off by asking, how did the love of writing for you begin? Was it a love of reading that transformed into writing? Did you always know that you wanted to write from a younger age?
Well, that's a great question. And it's actually a pretty fun story. I am what you would call a retired stay-at-home mom, which means I'm an empty nester. But before that, I still have a huge love of reading, but I was having a bit of an identity crisis because as a stay-at-home mom and my kids graduating and not needing their mother anymore, I had a very huge lack of purpose. And my younger son actually said to me, well, Mom, you love reading so much. Why don't you try writing a book? And back in high school, I think I had toyed with the notion of writing a romance novel, but it just went away. And then I went to this continuing ed class, went to a creative writing class. And after that first day of, I almost threw up because I was so nervous, but afterwards, I just was fired up and jazzed and fell in love with writing and just jumped into learning the craft of writing. So that's kind of how it all started.
So how are your feelings of the journey of going through that? As you said, embracing the darkness, when the darkness in this case is the writing.
Can be. It's been a fun process. I have a definite kind of purpose now and a reason to hop out of bed. It's been a learning curve. I always tell people I jumped into the deep end without floaties because I hit the ground running, and I was learning to write as I was actually writing. And I actually wrote a book before Chasing the Darkness, but it's a mess. It's shelved. It might see the light of day someday, but we'll see. So it's been a really fun experience. There's been a lot of highs and lows, and not a lot of lows, but a lot of highs. That imposter syndrome that creeps in, and that's hard. And waiting for that first review, and then just whenever you put your work out there and kind of going, oh God, I hope they like it. It's a fun experience. It keeps me humble yet excited at all the same time.
So, as you said, Chasing the Darkness was not your first crack at novelization, right?
Yep.
So how did that idea for Chasing the Darkness, how did that come? And why did it feel different than ideas from the past, if it at all?
Yeah, well, this one really actually came out of the blue. And what happened was my boys were home for summer break or something, and they were playing a video game. And of course they were fighting. So I had to go break it up. And there was a character on that game that just really intrigued me. And I kind of just looked into the backstory of it. And, that creativity bug sometimes just smacks you upside the head. So I sat down and I wrote a scene with this assassin betrayed by his team in a dungeon. And that actually became chapter 4 of Chasing the Darkness. So it just kind of started from there with this character. And then, I developed the world around him and wherever he went, and developed the characters that he, came in contact with. So it all really just started with my boys arguing over a video game.
I have to ask, what video game was it? Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Overwatch. And the character was
Overwatch.
Reaper. Mhm.
Oh, okay. No, that is a particularly very cool character, honestly.
Yeah. He's
Uh,
a very cool character.
and honestly, I love how your first idea of the book wasn't the first scene; it was chapter 4, and then
Yeah.
you basically had to write the story before that as well, and then progress on from that. That was amazing.
Well, actually, it started, that was going to be chapter 1. But then it just, as you go through the writing and the editing and you realize, well, I can't start here. I need to start here. And then, I mean, the starting place changed, quite often. The whole thing did. But yeah, so, but it's fun to go back and look at my notes and see that was actually going to be the first chapter.
Honestly, from a writer's standpoint, that's one of the funniest things ever. That should be a meme that we start doing, or like a template or something, that you compare what the book
Oh yeah.
was to your initial notes of it. I mean, it's all over the place. It's almost laughable,
Absolutely.
yeah, because you
Yeah.
actually go through the process and it hardens way different than you thought it would be, and the process is way different, and the characters develop in a way that you develop them in a way that suits the story, but then you fall in love with them because you have to make them into people with emotions and
Right.
different advancements, tribulations. It's phenomenal. Now,
Yeah.
one thing that I have to ask is, so the love of writing and reading was apparent, but what made it into fantasy? What was it that called you to be a fantasy author?
I love to escape. So I read a lot of fantasy. And so it just seemed a kind of natural bent to go and write fantasy. I also like romance, but I usually like romantic suspense. I don't like just pure romance novels. So the romantic fantasy was not easy for me to write, but I enjoyed writing it because I enjoyed reading it. One of my first fantasy books as I got back into reading once, I had kids and whatnot, was Harry Potter, of course. So
Mm.
that just jump started. And then I did read, a couple, was reading some romance novels. And then my older son, Tyler, he is a huge reader. And so I started reading his stuff. I thought, well, I'll just see what he's reading. And he was reading the Percy Jackson books, which I love. I mean, those are great. And he had a couple other ones that I would read. And then I found Sarah J. Maas's A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Mm.
And I just fell in love with her and her writing style, and just have loved really most of her work. So that's kind of how the whole fantasy came to be. I love the idea of escape, and I don't like doing a ton of research. So I would never write historical romance ever, historical fiction ever. It's too much work. But fantasy is it's just fun, and you can kind of get away with some things that you might not be able to get away with a historical novel or literary fiction or whatever.
Now, when I talk to people that love fantasy or that write fantasy, there's always a divide between what aspects of fantasy is that attracts to them. There's people that love the fantastical elements in which you can add into the story, and there's people that love the world building behind it. Would you say that you're on either side of the fence, or are you somewhere in the middle?
I would say I'm more the fantastical elements. I like the magic, and that was actually some of the first things I created was the magic system, where the world building, I'm not like, Tolkien, who, created his own language and had everything figured out. I really like the world building really came as my character traveled across the story. And I'm like, where the heck are we? And so I had to build that around that. And I probably did a little backwards. I'd probably change that up a little bit in the next series I write. But definitely I'm more on the magic side of it. I like the magical part, superpowers or, magic or whatever.
And how do you incorporate those into your work? And do you plan on furthering those elements as the Darkness saga continues?
Yeah. So in my story, there's physical magic and then there's mental magic. And there's 5 types of each. And, I do the elemental magic because, that's just fun. Fire, water, earth, that's just fun. And then, from the video games and things that my sons played and the movies we watched, and I'm a boy mom, and I have a friend actually who says I should be like a 7th grade boy because I just never really grown up. And I just love all of that, Marvel and all those things. So anyway, I would just take little bits and pieces and twist it and tweak it and form it into a magic system. I even took some stuff from like Twilight, and kind of, moved it through some of the magic. So anyway, I've got 5 physical types and 5 mental. And the mental ones are, there's a shield, there's a vaulter who can teleport, there's a psych who, telekinesis, a healer, and then trackers who actually can sense and track magic. So it's kind of fun.
My God, that is phenomenal. So
Thank you.
$1 million question, without getting into any spoilers, what is Chasing the Darkness about? Who is the main character? Who are we following? Without giving too much away, because again, pick up the book, folks. The information is gonna be in the description, out now, and make sure to do it so that you are well read for the sequel coming out October 25th. A couple of weeks, folks. It's around the corner, basically.
And just FYI, ebook is right now, it's on sale for $2.99. So come on, that's cheaper than a cup of coffee. So get out there and buy it.
And honestly, now buy a lot. $2.99 is like a small black coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. So
seriously, that is very true. So Chasing the Darkness is about an assassin named Azrael. He's the Angel of Death. He's nicknamed the Angel of Death. And essentially, he's discovered his whole life purpose was built on a lie. And so now he's on a path of either revenge or redemption. And he's power hungry. He's your anti-hero, morally gray character who, I put him through hell. And it's just so satisfying. And I do it actually in the second book too, poor guy. But yeah, so it's about his journey of, discovery of who he is, what his morals really are, discovering friendship, being able to trust that because, he's an assassin and they're called hunters, which if you look at the cover of the book, he's got this skull mask right here. And when I first wrote this story, all the hunters wore a mask. And then of course, COVID hit and everyone is wearing masks. I'm like, okay, he is not COVID responsible. This has nothing to do with that. It was just bad coincidence. But anyhow, it's kind of funny. So so that's Azrael. And I don't want to give away too much. So it is a fun read. It's action packed, a lot of sword fights, which I love to do. I love writing fight scenes. Obviously there's some romance in there. It would be what you call a slow burn romance, the enemies to lovers trope, which I love reading and writing. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, a couple things come to mind, honestly. What is your like horoscope sign?
I am an Aries, actually.
An Aries.
The Ram. I have no idea. I don't really know much about it, but
no, I don't either. The main thing, the main reason that I ask is on your profile you call yourself a Slytherin, and you're saying that all these things about Azrael and putting them through hell. So I'm trying to connect the dots here. Where do you think? Okay. Where do you think that type of Slytherin
thing? I got to defend myself on.
Go ahead.
All right. So forever I thought I was a Gryffindor because, everybody wants to be a Gryffindor, right? Well, not everybody, but I did. I thought I was a Gryffindor. And when my younger son Chase graduated from high school, he didn't want the whole graduation party. He wanted to go to Universal Studios and go to Harry Potter World. Fine. You don't want to twist my arm on that one. I'll do it. So we go out there and my boys and my husband just think it's so funny that they think I'm a Slytherin. They're like, you need to take the, the sorting hat quiz, right? And you can do it on your phone. I took that thing 4 bloody times and every time it came back Slytherin. So I've embraced my Slytherinness. That I guess it says like I'm cunning, which I don't really think I'm cunning, or ambitious, which maybe a little with the book stuff, but so that's the Slytherin thing. I'm a nice Slytherin. I'm not like the evil Slytherins. I'm not a dark wizard.
No, honestly, I would definitely, if I took that, if I had the sorting hat on me, I'd probably be 100% Slytherin. I can't lie to you. And so, but it's not an offense by any degree, and more so like like even in like the old lore of Harry Potter, like not all Slytherins are bad. It's just kind of like a, you know, a personality trait type of thing.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
which is actually why those one time I was watching the movie with my girlfriend where they expel the Slytherins like out of the house, and I was just like, that is unjust. That is not fair. They deserve a fair trial. That is not cool. Okay, 40% of them, sure, but there are a couple good ones in there that's not cool.
That is true. Actually, we just thought the Harry Potter 8, I guess, in the movies. And they kicked all the Slytherin out. They took them all the dungeons. I'm like, come on, not all of us are Pansy Perkinson or whatever her name is, you know?
Yeah. No, I was there too. I'm defending. I was there. I'm Slytherin too. I'm proud. And the reason I ask all those things is just because the biblical elements of what you're saying are like, I myself was raised Roman Catholic, you know, Spanish, very astute, you know, church school on Sundays and the whole bit. So just hearing the name Asriel, it perked my ear without a doubt. Do you think that the religious aspects are something that came at naturally as you kind of like develop the idea of like the Reaper character of all these things, or was it something that was just innately there from the beginning?
Well, interestingly, I'm actually a Christian, so a lot of my thoughts and writing and some, you know, there is that basis behind it. Asriel was just actually a Google search for death, you know, because at first I was like, do I name him Grim? And I'm like, well, that's not flowing off very well. So that was a Google search. I found Asriel was, you know, part of the, you know, it is a Judeo-Christian name, and there was some other names. And so that's how Asriel came to be. But, you know, through my writing, like the whole redemption and forgiveness and a lot of that. And, you know, we all struggle with darkness inside of us, you know, the fight for good and evil. We all have those issues and temptations and weaknesses. And so it's just, you know, so it is threaded throughout, I would say that, you know, that religious knowledge or how I was raised or whatever is threaded in throughout both stories, actually.
I might be biased when I say this, but I generally love those type of things, and it's not limited to just Christianity or Catholicism or anything like that. I just love when stories have almost that allegorical twist within like the story that kind of brings in those like religious aspects. I mean, you know, the Chronicles of Narnia are like, very well known to be like, you know, secular based, and a lot of phenomenal stories have that kind of like basis. And I've always gravitated toward those stories naturally. You know, even the Percy Jackson stories aren't necessarily within Christianity, but it's all about faith, with a faith between gods, and how like the lack of faith, like, you know, changes a relationship and how that has effect on environment. And I don't know, type of things like that are just phenomenal. I think it's a great base for fantasy, honestly.
Yeah, and I think it just adds some different layers to it. Like my book is not going to be sold in a Christian bookstore, because, you know, my main character is an assassin who cuts off heads. So it's not really uplifting. In fact, actually, my pastor, it's really funny. He wanted a copy of my book, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not giving you one. And he's like, no, really, I want a copy. And so I signed it and I said, do not read this. I don't want him to read it. But anyway, but yeah, I think it adds different layers to it without, you know, shoving anything down anyone's throat. It just adds a little bit more and some depth to it, which, you know, it's kind of fun to write. So
yeah, I mean, honestly, I it's one of those things that just it's unbelievable to me. I always wonder myself if it's something that's it's biased, if it's something like that. But I don't know. To me, it's just like an awesome sign for a book, and just everything that you're doing in regards to like the Darkness Saga. If you're not on the Instagram sphere, you need to hop on it, because Cassie is doing her work. I mean, just everything about the book is phenomenal. Little promos.
Thank you.
It automatically just like goes off to like the next question of how are the characters progressing? How is the story progressing for embracing the darkness? Again, without getting too much away, make sure to buy the book, folks. Yes. Honestly, this is a good one. This definitely gets my stamp.
Thank you. Yeah, so embracing the darkness is continuing Asriel's story. And I have like actually on my website, now is so exciting because I have, instead of the book, I have books, and you can have like a pull down menu. So I have Chasing the Darkness and Embracing the Darkness. And I actually have a huge spoiler alert saying, if you have not read Chasing the Darkness, get off this page as fast as you can, because there's a spoiler in my blurb, which if I could go back, about 2 months and maybe rethink that, I might do that differently. So you really do need to read Chasing the Darkness first. Otherwise, there is a spoiler, and it's not like, it's kind of ginormous actually. So anyway, so it's a continuation of this story, but it's tweaked a little bit, and it takes place in Aurelian, which is the kingdom city of Pandaren, which is my world. Pandaren, you can kind of see the map right there.
Yeah.
That's Pandaren, and then Aurelian is the kingdom city, and it takes place mostly there. But there's peace now in Pandaren, because there was, kind of like a not a civil war, but similar, between spectrals, which are the people with magic, and naturals, those who without. And now there's peace, and now there's this event called the Gathering, which is a grouping of 5 kingdoms. So we have 4 traveling kingdoms coming in to Aurelian for, peace negotiations and trade negotiations, and of course tournaments, because that's fun to write, and then there's just political intrigue and, all kinds of stuff going on in the second book. It's actually a little bit longer. The first book was about 93,000 words, and this book is 102,000 words. So it's a little bit longer.
My God, that is honestly a phenomenal setting for a sequel of a book. I mean, there's so much to dive in, just the political, the trade.
Yeah, it's
God, no, that's phenomenal, honestly.
Thank you. It was hard. It was the first, obviously this is Chasing the Darkness is the first official book I claim to have written. And so Embracing the Darkness is my first sequel. And, with the first book, there were no expectations. I was just writing and loving it and, honing my craft and all that. And then with the second book, all of a sudden there's like an expectation, like readers know what to expect and what to get. And, that imposter syndrome and, running into brick walls of like, I don't know what to do. And, am I capable? Should I be doing this? So there was a lot of that. It was a lot. The second book was a lot harder to write than the first. So I'm glad it's done. And now I've got about 4,000 words written for the third. Whether they're going to stay or not, I don't know, but they're getting there.
Do you have a preemptive title for the third book yet?
Yeah. So it's either going to be Defeating the Darkness or Destroying the Darkness. I don't know which one yet. So. Yeah.
I know you didn't ask, but there's something about Defeating the Darkness that just sounds right. But destroying, there's something like secular about that too, though.
I'm leaning towards more the defeating, because destroying seems like almost absolute, and we'll never destroy all the darkness. We're always going to struggle with stuff, but defeating, we can conquer in some areas. So I'm leaning towards defeating, but we'll see. I'm obviously going the darkness route though, for sure.
My God. Well, for this part of the podcast, I always am 100% curious about the marketing aspects. How are you treating the marketing of the book? Because as other authors listening on know, marketing is just the hydra that just every time you think you cut ahead, 2 more come back, always something you don't know, always somewhere to improve. So how are you tackling the behemoth that is marketing?
That's, first of all, an excellent analogy and totally true. What's ironic is that my degree is marketing and I hate it. Of course, when I got my degree, it's back when dinosaurs roamed the earth and there was no Facebook, there was no social media. So I'm relearning the whole art of marketing. But, I had learned, so I joined Jerry Jenkins' Writers Guild, and he's the one that wrote the Left Behind series. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but through his, and he has a Writers Guild, and it's like a monthly fee, but oh my gosh, I would say I learned 80% of everything I know from him and his classes. He does this like online live editing where he'll take a page of someone's work and edit it right there for you. It is fascinating. But in their classes, they talk all about building your platform. And so that's when I learned, oh my gosh, I need more than, my mom following me on Facebook kind of a thing. So I started I got my author account on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter, which I'm not super active on Twitter because I just can't keep up. And then I started creating, having my website created, which that was super challenging, having a About Cassie page. Like, I don't know what to tell people about myself. Like, I'm a mom of boys. I like dogs. Okay, cool. I mean, really, that doesn't fit the page. So anyhow, I started working on building all of that just very slowly. And I was on Instagram. I think I joined November of 2020, or I get the dates mixed up. I didn't start talking about my book until the following September. So during that time, I was just building my brand, building who I was. I would have I still have Monday Mayhems because my husband thought it'd be fun to bring home a puppy, a lab puppy, and we already had a lab. So not fun, but excellent content. So I'd have videos or pictures of the dogs on Mondays. I had like Wacky Fact Wednesday where I would share wacky facts about me. Tuesdays, I might have quotes about, from authors or whatever. I just started building this kind of platform, and I never once talked about my book. I just engaged with other people, started, kind of developing some relationships, and mostly on Instagram. That's really I would say my bread and butter. I've somehow managed to get over 6,100 followers. I don't know how that's happened, but I'm thankful for each and every one of them that aren't robots. And, and, just started doing that. And then I started, once I got closer to, launching, that September is when I started kind of marketing the book more. November was when the ebook launched. And then February was when the paperback launched. So then I started kicking in more, quotes from the book and my trailer and all of that. And it's just, consistent content and putting it out there. And one of the most important things I can say is you got to be real with these people. You cannot I don't like seeing, if you go and look at some of my reels and especially even on TikTok, they'll be like, this, I have makeup on, looking all pretty. And then I have like this big old knot in my head and I have not a scrap of makeup and I'm like all, sleep in my eyes, just doing a video because I had an inspiration. So I don't know. I try to be as real as possible and try not to bombard people with just my book. I hate when I see authors page that's all about their book, just book. It's like, really, it's not really actually about you. It's about your reader. I had learned that with Jerry Jenkins. It's reader first, whether that's how you're writing it or how you're marketing. It's all about the reader. So that's just kind of what I've tried to do, and it's worked. I'm now currently on TikTok, which TikTok's great. It's a huge place to market your book and find out about books, but it's just hard to come up with content all the time that's, interesting and
flashy within 15 seconds.
That might get more than like 60 or 60 views, not even likes. I'm like, oh, come on. I worked hard on that one. And it's like, nobody's watching it, but
been there.
It's a slow growing process, building that platform and those relationships and engagement. It's a slow process. You just got to kind of have to ride it out. So that was a long answer. Sorry.
No, that wasn't a long answer. That was a perfect answer. I mean, honestly, one, I feel personally attacked because my author page is 100% about my book. No, but like everything you're saying, it's like resonating. I'm like, man, you're right though. Like I'll focus on, certain aspects of certain art because I do like doing, I definitely would consider myself an artist. So I focus on like the art and things like that. But now that I'm hearing it, it's like, man, that is actually phenomenal. Like that is such good advice. That is the clip right there. That's going to be the clip of like the episode for like young, not even young, just anyone starting off that wants to have a book or maybe is in the same route that you were at maybe a couple of years ago where they had already tried and they're like, shelved in having a new idea, because what you just said right there is gold. I wish I had started doing that. Honestly, I made my Instagram account when the book was in editing phase. So I hit the ground running with just only promotion of the book. But now, like, honestly, hearing it, no lie, like there's nothing in my voice like that's actually going to change how I'm thinking of the marketing going on, because that is solid advice for even a person that's already been doing this. If anything, I'm just mad that I haven't done this before.
Yeah.
But, the best time to plant a tree is, was 1,000 years ago. Second best time is right now. So we just got to do it now.
just, yeah, you can recoup. And, I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't. It wasn't my idea. But I was on another podcast where the lady, she didn't really want to talk about my book as much, but she's like, wanted to talk about me. And she had told me, people are going to buy your book because of you, not necessarily because of the book. And, that I have found actually to be true, because as I've engaged with more people, I'd say, hey, I see you like romantic fantasy. Would you be interested in maybe reading my book? Would you be interested in reviewing my book? And I just send them a free ebook or whatever, and just started developing those relationships where now, with embracing the darkness, I could reach out to about 25, 30 people on Instagram and say, hey, you liked the first one and we're kind of buddies now. Would you be up for being on my, A.R.T team to get this sucker moving? So it's hard because, like, I got to market my book, but really you got to market yourself. And I think that's harder. It's harder to put ourselves out there. It's much easier to show off the book I've written and the cool cover and go, hey, look, buy this, versus, hey, here I am. Not buy me, but you get my point.
No, what you're saying is 100% true. Like, I do the same format. If you notice, the beginning conversations are always personal questions, and then I ask about the book like somewhere in the middle towards the end. It's because the idea is like, all right, I roped you in with the personality. Now you're going to be a little more interested in this guest work or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Usually how I find anyway, because that's just how it is.
Yeah.
You don't go and watch a basketball basketball game anymore to watch, the Lakers or the Celtics. You go to watch LeBron. You go to watch a specific person's because you're fascinated with like the character and everything around it. So that's just how marketing has evolved, and it's how it's increasingly evolving with an incredible pace because of technology. Yes. And the best we can do is at least notice patterns and attack, because none of us are out here just dancing along trying to get likes. We're authors just using the platform in order to get more people viewing our work, which I think is just a beautiful thing. Not to knock people dancing around. I like dancing.
No, dancing's good. Dancing,
yeah, dancing's awesome.
By all means, just videotape yourself so we can enjoy it.
That's way too funny. Now, we are getting to the end of the podcast. This has been a phenomenal episode. Thank you so much for coming on and just being yourself and having a good time and talking about your work. It's been phenomenal. Thank you for opening up, and just thank you for coming on. And again, make sure to grab a copy of Chasing the Darkness, Book 1 in the Darkness Saga. Fantasy, phenomenal fantasy. That's the new FF. No, PF actually phenomenal. What am I talking about?
Sort of. We can make it work.
PF is like it's like another thing. We don't want to get people like thinking it's like, oh, is that like a medical term? What's going on here? No. Book 1 of the Darkness Saga. Make sure to pick it up. It's out now. You can pick it up on Amazon, Goodreads. I believe so, right? Where else can people pick up the book?
On Goodreads, at Barnes and Noble, Books a Million. Most of the major bookstores, you can at least get it the ebook for sure. You can always request, which I would love, go to the bookstore and actually request the book so they actually get them in. That would be fabulous.
Yes, do that, please.
Yeah, so that's the best way to go. Or, you can go to my website and click the links there. And Chasing the Darkness is actually an audiobook as well now. So that was the most stressful thing, hiring that narrator and making sure like he could get the voices right, because oh my gosh. And you know how many people have asked me, are you doing it? Are you reading it? I was like, do I sound like a sexy assassin? I mean, I can get my voice pretty deep, but come on. Anyway, so just a little tidbit there. Audiobook is out as well. So, but yeah, my website's probably the best place to find more about me and the book, which is CassieSanchez.com. So, which I know you'll have in the thing.
Well, that's funny about the narrator. Next time somebody asks you, just gonna tell them it's like that voice is for my husband. That's exclusive. That's on lockdown.
Actually, yeah, no, my husband's like, hey, can I read it? I'm like, no, your voice is not quite deep. Seriously, that's rude. I'm like, sorry.
I'm trying to sell this. I still love you though.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Well, again, it has been phenomenal. Thank you for coming on. The website and everything that you need, all links will be in the description and the banners of the video as you're seeing this. And if you're hearing it, make sure to go ahead and follow her on socials. Well worth it. Everything she does for promotion. If you're a reader, I promise you have your next new favorite author. If you are a writer, I'm telling you, you can take some notes. You can take some notes. You can be like the surrogate within the class, right? It's like when your friend goes to college and you like read their notes. You know what I mean? You can pick up some stuff just being in the sphere. And again, this has been Cassie Sanchez, the phenomenal author of the Darkness Saga. Stop playing by the books. And we will be back next week with another creator, another imaginative mind, and we're going to be talking about our favorite thing, the art of it all. Peace out.